Do you want to get well? When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? John 5, verse 6. We just read this about this interesting encounter that Jesus had with an unnamed individual, a certain man whom he met at a pool called Bethesda, or Bethsaida as that one is written. Now, the word, or the name of that pool can be translated House of Mercy. To this pool, many people came with the intention of being healed, many sick people. The pool was famous for its healing power. However, that was possible only on certain times or at certain seasons, since it was the belief that an angel would go down to the pool at a certain time and stir the water, trouble the water, as some translations put it. And the first person to enter the water after it was stirred or troubled would be healed. We can imagine that this must have created a situation where individuals who were there waiting for the angel to stir or trouble the water would scramble to get in first. The story that we have before us today is a story of a man who was in need of healing. From the story, we learn that the man with whom Jesus spoke had a chronic condition. And a condition is described as chronic when it is there for a long time, when it recurs for several years. In this case, it was 38 years since this man had been suffering from whatever ailment or disease had afflicted him. 38 years. That's a long time. Now, we don't know how long the man had been coming to the pool, or even what other methods of healing he tried, or remedies he might have applied. But there he was, that Sabbath day, waiting with a great number of disabled individuals. We are told that among them were blind people, people who were lame, people who were suffering from paralysis. They had come to be healed. The man in the story was in need of help. Not only did he realize that he needed healing, and to get healing, he needed help. Help to enter the pool. When Jesus approached the man and asked him if he wanted to be healed, listen to the man's response. He said to Jesus, "Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. When I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." A man who was in need of healing, but he also needed help in order to get, as it were, to the source of healing. I get the impression that in addition to his chronic condition. This man was also suffering from a spirit of helplessness. He must have tried for so long to be the first in the water after it was stirred, but his attempts were unsuccessful because he had no one to help him. And the spirit of helplessness is a disease in itself. It is something like paralysis, because it can lead one to resign, to give up, to just accept that this is my life. This is what I will have to live with, as it were. The day the man met Jesus, though, he found hope. A man in need of healing, a man who must have fallen into a state of helplessness. When he met Jesus on that Sabbath day, his hope was renewed or revived. Years of helplessness can lead to hopelessness. That's what had happened to this man. For 38 years he bore his infirmity. We don't know what portion of the man's life those years represented. But Jesus asked the man a very important and searching question when he encountered him. Do you want to get well? That is such an important question for every one of us. No matter our circumstances, no matter our situation, do you want to get well? Some might say that the answer to that question was obvious. It must have been clear that the man wanted to get well, and that is why he was there in the first place. His presence at the pool was an indication that he was seeking healing. He wanted to get well. He wanted a change in his condition. But I say this evening, don't be so sure. It is likely the man had grown accustomed to his situation and had given up on any change in his circumstances. It is possible that after so many years, he became conditioned. He settled into that state. I read the following story about the elephant rope. I don't know how many of you ever knew this, but this is the story. As a man was passing the elephants, he suddenly stopped, confused by the fact that these huge creatures were being held by only a small rope tied to their front leg. No chains, no cages. It was obvious that the elephants could at any time break away from their bonds, but for some reason, they did not. He saw a trainer nearby and asked why these animals just stood there and made no attempt to get away. Well, said the trainer, when they are very young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them, and at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free. The man was amazed. These animals could at any time break free from their bonds But because they believed they couldn't, they were stuck right where they were. End of the story. Perhaps this is what happened to the man. He felt there was nothing he could do, and there was no one to help him get into that pool. So he became stuck. But that question, do you want to get well? My friends, this is a question that can be applied not only to the physically challenged, as in the case of that individual in the story, but it is applicable when it comes to other challenges that we face, whether they be mental, whether they be emotional, or whether they have something to do with our spiritual well-being. Do you want to get well? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually? Is there something in your life that is preventing you from enjoying the full life that God has in store for you? But for some reason, you have come to accept it as the way it is. You feel helpless to do anything about that situation. And so that question, do you want to get well? Notice, my friends, in the case of the man, the superstition associated with the pool didn't help him. His belief that the water being stirred by some angel that would come down in it and somehow he would have a chance to get into that water, he was not helped by that situation. Also, the help he expected from others failed him. It was his obedience to Jesus that made the difference and that brought about the miracle in his life, the miracle of change, the miracle of healing that he sought all those years. Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." At once we are told the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. I always marvel at the power of Jesus to bring about change in the life of an individual. Jesus helped the man. The help that he was seeking all along, he found in Jesus. The healing that he wanted all those years, Jesus brought him. Jesus renewed his hope. 38 years of bondage ended that day. The man exercised the hope Jesus inspired and picked up his mat and walked. The power of change, the power of hope, the power of Jesus. Yes, you can. Yes, you can be made well. You can be made whole. Yes, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. Philippians 4, verse 13. But my dear brothers and sisters, it has to be a daily picking up of that bed and walking in the way of Christ, so that one would not slip back into the former life. I trust that our meditation on this story tonight will inspire us and encourage us so that we may go from this place and continue to think about the change that Jesus can work in our lives if we listen to him and we obey him in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.